Hello everyone, this is Chatty CRC. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about the CL Racing F4 Air V2. This is an Inav specific flight control board that is made for fixed wing type models for Inav, which is, if you don't know what Inav is, it's kind of like something for multi-rotors and planes. Return to home, it's a fork and beta flight, all that kind of stuff. And it's grown in popularity because you can do things with some of the parts that you already have, like flight controllers and everything like that, and keep the cost down and get some of the performance from more expensive plane type of flight control systems that are out there, like the Eagle Tree Vector and stuff like that. So I'm going to have some flight footage going down in the corner of the page to show you what's going on. I have this board installed inside my Nano Goblin Strix Ready-Made RC, and really wanted to do the Nano Goblin because I have a wing and I put 2.4 in it. It's big and you have to carry the ground station and all that stuff, and I just wanted to do something that I could just throw a remote, easy battery, goggles, go to the field, fly for a half hour or an hour off a couple of batteries, and just have fun with no stress. So there's pictures of it installed here. You can take a look at that. But let's talk about this board, because I want to tell you some good and bad and ugly things about the board. So the good thing about the board is that it's from CL Racing. Some people might like Chang, some people might not. I like working with Chang because if he makes a mistake, he makes it right. He likes to go ahead, he'll repair bad boards, he will exchange them out for you, he'll do all kinds of stuff if you go through him from CL Racing. If you have questions about the board, you can message him and he will respond to you like really quickly. So I just appreciate that kind of stuff. So the board has got all kinds of great stuff built into it. You can take a look at everything here. What I want to talk about is how to wire it up specifically, because that is pretty confusing. But all the boards that you get from him right now are all fixed. There's no more issues with 5 volts or anything like that, even though I did kind of cheat a little bit and just to wire up for safety. If we take a look at the main board here, you've got like, this is a 5 volt rail here that has the 5 amp BEC built into it. And then this over here is the 5 volts where your GPS and all that stuff goes, and what I assume powers the flight controller. So I still wired up, I'm using TBS Crossfire on this, so I still wired up Crossfire to the UART right here, but I actually powered it off of the 5 volt amp rail, the 5 volt and 5 amp Beck rail over here. Just to be sure. So if we take a look here at the diagram, you can see your regular pinout here starting from the top to the bottom, and this is where things get kind of confusing. So everything here on these first 3 pads is correct according to this. Everything up here is correct with the ESC, battery out, that's all correct, and all of this stuff down here is correct as well. And then if you're using S-Bus or Spectrum versus using Crossfire or something like that, that you would want a long range Dragon Link that you would want to power off of a 5 volt rail, then you would just bridge your solder pads right here and all that kind of stuff. But when we look at how you're actually supposed to wire stuff, Inav typically motor 1 and 2 pads are for our motors, and then 3 and 4 and 5 are usually for servos. So you would think that you would wire to this pad here, to this pad, and to this pad for a wing. But if you scroll down here and look at the PDF diagram, whoa, that just got real big real fast. This is definitely a lot more explanatory and easier to look at than all that. This is how I wired up everything except for the pads over here is where things really don't make sense anymore, because over here they're called something completely different than they were on the last diagram that we looked at. And if you look at this chart down here, this kind of like tells you okay, you know, 1 to 6, does that mean that we're going from top to bottom or bottom to top? And this is where I kind of got confused and kind of got a little peeved. I sent a couple messages to Chang, and he kind of didn't really give me like the correct information, but he kind of cleared a couple things up. He said that everything was backwards from top to bottom, and that was fine, but I still had issues. But forgot to say that this bottom pad right here is actually the airspeed indicator. So when it's all said and done, this pad right here is not pad number 1. And this one up here is pad number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But with directions and everything, the way that it is actually wired up, technically that is not the way that it works. And I will show you a picture on how everything is wired up on mine. But basically, I'll start at the top, the bottom here. You ignore this first pad. This pad here is going to be for your Elevon, and which is going to be servo 3 or 4. This is the next one, the next pad up, and then your motors are actually going to be on this pad right here. And I'll show you how my flight controller is wired up and what it actually looks like with this picture here, because it probably will make a lot more sense when you see that picture. So I don't know why it was done this way. I have no idea. It just basically comes down to how it was designed and resource mapping and everything like that. But I've seen on the RC Group's thread that some people were having problems wiring it up, and I just wanted to say, hey, I asked and nobody really responded and said this is for sure how you wired it up. So I wanted to put it out there, and I'll put it all over the internet or whatever, because this flight controller is great for INAV because you don't have to put anything else in there. You don't have to use a PDB. It'll run off everything off of this. Some people are against that, but this flight controller has enough built into it to be able to handle that. The one downside to it, especially with my Nano Goblin, is that this flight controller is just one big board. You don't see any holes for mounting or standoffs or anything like that. So I'd really like to put a RunCam split or something into my Nano Goblin, but I don't have anything to do as far as I have no stacking options. I have nowhere to mount anything. I would basically have to create a separate stack somewhere else inside the fuselage to mount that. So I'm still trying to figure out how to make that happen. I know some people have made it happen. They're running RunCam splits in there, but I'm just trying to figure out how it's going to fit my situation. So I decided to go with this board, like I said, because of the service and stuff, and just because, you know, a lot of people use Omnibus, and I know there's a lot of information out there, but you really just don't know what you're going to get from one revision and one retailer to another. So I just wanted to go with something like this that I thought was simple, and there was a few hang-ups with the wiring, but when it was all said and done, I made it through. Nano Goblin's flying good. I just need some days where winds aren't 10, 15, 20 miles per hour. That's not going to happen for a couple days because we're about to get 5 inches of snow tonight. So maybe this weekend I will be able to get back out there and fly it, and we'll talk more about that whenever that happens. So until then, guys, we will talk to you later.